Hi, everybody. This is Desi, the ED and founder of Kapwa Gardens. Wanted to kind of share with you a little history of Kapwa Gardens seen through my eyes. The origin story of Kapwa Gardens actually starts with the Undiscovered Court, which was about a block away on 6th and Stevenson. This was a project that launched in 2019 with the help of Zendesk and OEWD. We were given the mission to turn a 4,000 square foot parking lot into a wellness play space, and it was quite a success. It was the first time we ever did anything that involved a community build of 75 people. And with that success, we were able to win an RFP to activate 967 Mission Street, which was not far away from 6th and Stevenson. This site was going to be senior housing one day, but it would take years for them to break ground. So in the meantime, the city didn't want to see this parking lot sit empty. And the site conditions were pretty bad. There were some unhoused folks who were camping out and creating bonfires, and creepily enough, they were collecting doll heads. When we pitched the city, what we could do with it, we were obviously inspired by what we were doing with the undiscovered court. And so we wanted to double down with wellness activities like yoga and Tai Chi. We also wanted to try some other ideas like an urban garden or even sauna that was going to use rainwater capture system to, you know, uh, generate the shower. We also wanted to create a performing stage because, we were known for this type of programming. We also want to do something new since there are these really large walls next to Kappa Gardens that maybe perhaps we could do some projection mapping. And then kind of tie it all together with food trucks and make it kind of seem like it was Spark Social, but most importantly, create opportunities for micro enterprises for seniors to sell. And to make this all happen, we teamed up once again with Camo Design Studio, which is Christina and Marcus and their daughter Rosie. So we held many design charrettes with the local community, tested a lot of ideas with seniors, with the students of the proof school next door, and we quickly learned that some of our ideas really resonated and some didn't. And then the pandemic hit, and so everything had to change. Um, so a lot of our ideas, like close contact sports, actually became illegal. So we decided to kind of just run with it and design a space that was for COVID-19. And so we came up with the concept of Kapwa Gardens and art, wellness, and healing pop-up. A little known fact, Marcus actually wanted to call the place Mabuhay Gardens. I was like, Mabuhay Gardens means a lot of things to a lot of community members because of its punk rock days. And so I don't think we can call it Mabuhay Gardens, but maybe Kapwa Gardens might be the ticket. And to explain what is Kapwa to non-Filipinos, we often refer to the movie Avatar, where the indigenous beings of that planet had this superpower connecting their ponytails with the plants and animals of that planet, and they were able to connect deeply and empathetically to everything around them. And so that was the idea of Kapwa Gardens for non-Filipino stakeholders. And so they kind of automatically got the idea since, we were living in a time of disconnection, a time where we had to socially distance. There were local residents living in cramped conditions, which made life hard. Hygiene was super important, and then we were running into supply chain issues when it came to food. Also, lots of local arts and culture groups like Bindlestiff could not operate because you couldn't be indoors. We were guided by the principle of creating a Zen space where people can contemplate life and address mental health issues. And so there were a lot of precedences in landscape design around this with Lamberts and whatnot. Also, for eons, theater has been performed outdoors. And so here's some initial kind of concept montages that Marcus and Christina came up with for Kappa Gardens. Here are some initial ideas that they had for Kappa Gardens in terms of kind of emphasizing social distancing and creating a grid pattern of 6 by 6. So you could see if you were socially distanced from other folks. Here's the idea of creating like a sari store for seniors at Kapwa Gardens. This is something we really wanted to do, but the security conditions on 6th Street made that impossible for us to open the gardens all the time, unfortunately. We also envision like a strolling orchard for people to kind of like walk their dogs and pick calamansi fruit and do some wellness classes. Here is some initial ideas that we had. As you can see, Kappa Gardens, the design starting to take shape of what it kind of looked like. You see, the AstroTurf had the social distancing circles. We were hoping to do a living wall on one of the neighbors' wall, but they weren't going to approve that. And then, the pandemic hit. Well, I mean, the pandemic was happening. And so there were all kinds of rules where, how could you reopen? And we really had to be very intentional and conscientious about these rules because they were ever changing. And we had to show the city that we were staying within the spirit and guidelines of what is allowed as an activity. So remember, during the dark days of the pandemic, one of the few things you could actually do was construction. So we had to show that we were doing things at Kappa Gardens that were legally allowed, like painting of wall murals and ground treatment and building and planters. We also had to show that creating vendor booths is an allowable activity during the pandemic because curbside retail was allowed at that time. Um, so on and so forth. And so, that was a lot of the work that I had to do was ensure city compliance. So this is how Copper Garden started to form. This is a beautiful aerial shot of the early days of the construction. This is Alex Maxa, the original donor of the Kapwa Gardens bus. He owned a tour bus company called the Gilly Bus, and the bus he gave us was something that was just gathering dust in his fleet, and he, decided to give it to us in the hopes that we could do something really cool with it. Uh, the bus actually became a huge target for taggers since we didn't have much security on that site while we were building it. This is what is this? This is oh yeah, this is looking from the stage on, and that mountain of gravel is actually the foundation that is going to be underneath the AstroTurf. I believe that's about 2 tons of sand and rock that volunteers for 3 months had to grade and compact to get it right. Many of those volunteers never came back. This was not the fun part of Kapwa Gardens. But there are other things that you could do as a volunteer. You can make planters. Notice that some of our volunteers are wearing the crazy face mask because that's what we had to do back then. Even though you're outside, you had to really like gear up. We also had some ideas of creating living walls that were also like rotating art canvases for Balai creative artists. Uh, Here you can see volunteers starting to paint the planters. This is another shot of us creating the backstage area. The backstage area or the stage itself is really cool. It's just on patio decking pylons, and then we got shipping pallets and kind of stitched them together with 2x4s, and shipping pallets can hold about 2 tons of weight. So they were the perfect kind of construction material for what we were trying to do, and they were cheap. Here's my best friend Sear, really working hard. He's one of the MVPs of Kapwa Gardens. Not only did he make the living walls, the check-in booth, but he also spent about a month underneath the bus putting chicken wire to prevent rats from jumping inside the bus and trying to create a nest in there. So kudos to Sear for going above and beyond to secure the gardens. Um, this is, later half of Kapwa Gardens when things are really started to take shape. The bus is done, and I really want to call this out. I don't know the name of this volunteer. I hope he doesn't hate me, but he often brought his first dates to Kapwa Gardens. Not all of them worked out, but I believe this girl it worked out with, because I think they came back twice, and she didn't mind working on the gardens. Another cool thing about Kapwa Gardens is that it was a family space. While we were building, I mentioned Christina and Marcus, the landscape architects. They recently just had a baby, Rosie, and Rosie spent, I think, her first 4 months of her life in the gardens. So kudos for them being so brave and being open to having their baby out in the gardens. This is one of my good friends, Mar, and her son Leo, working on the living wall. Let's zoom back a little bit and talk about the Copper Gardens bus. We had two lead artists, Sammy C and Christian Kabawai, do a lot of design outreach on what the community wanted to see, and they wanted to see everything.
Is there any
So this is them kind of walking through the different ideas while volunteers are priming the bus. There were a lot of ideas to, pimp out the bus, like making it a jeepney with some kind of cultural motifs. Marcus and Christina were really pushing for the tessellation pattern of Kappa Gardens, while there were also some ideas of placemaking and destinations markings on the bus. Here is Christian with Samantha and I believe Fujimaya, who also assisted in painting the bus back in the early days. They spent like 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day getting the bus ready. And it was a beautiful job that they created. And here it is, the bus all finished. Here's another perspective shot of the bus. And then we connected with studio side project to help re-envision what could we do with the interior of the bus, knowing that it needed to be a proper office space for our staff. You can see that's how much we kind of spent on materials to really create this beautiful new oasis within the garden oasis. This is Lionel and Sear going hard at work clearing out the interior of the bus. And this is the after shots. As you can see, they've turned this into a really beautiful custom office and sound booth that's multi-purpose and a great place to just hang out while the madness of Kappa Gardens is going on inside. And after 6 months and 350 volunteers, we were able to open Kappa Gardens to the world. And it was quite an endeavor to pull something off like this. I'm not a contractor. I'm not a landscape architect, but this experience taught me that I'm ready for the apocalypse to like rebuild the world with other fellow like-minded people. This is really a healing moment for me personally during the dark days of the pandemic. Um, I did lose my best friend right around the time the pandemic left, and so a lot of my grieving was poured into the gardens. And many people also did the same thing when they lost their loved ones. And, we were able to transform that kind of negative energy into turning it into a really positive and beautiful space that community could come together and celebrate joy of being connected again. And because of that, we were awarded the Best Nonprofit Award of 2021 from the Bold Italic. And so thank you, the Bold Italic. Thank you to the 350 volunteers that helped build Kappa Gardens, to the many, many vendors, artists, performers, other nonprofits that have activated Kappa Gardens, to Matt Haney. When he was supervisor, he prevented other city agencies from taking Kappa Gardens away from us twice. So big ups to Matt Haney for stepping up for the community. OEWD for providing the funding. Also, Niantic Labs, makers of Pokemon Go. Studio Side Project, Marcus and Christina, Fear, Lionel, and Marissa for holding it down for so many years and making Kappa Gardens happen. This is not the end. Many parts of Kapwa Gardens are going to other places, and my